make achievable resolutions that are very precise. Employ your willpower, no matter what. Release any identification with past failures. And finally, tune into the unlimited and hidden power of God that lies within us.
Give me a light to light my way. Truth is the light, so light.
Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. So it is the New Year's Day. We don't often have the Sunday that is the New Year's Day. So I thought it would be a little appropriate for me to talk about New Year's resolutions, why we make them, and perhaps why we don't stick to them. There was a study done by a company called Strava. I don't know how many of you have heard of it. Make fitness bands, which are very popular among elite athletes. So Strava did this very clever experiment where they took all the data that was uploaded into their fitness bands, 800 million different pieces of data. And they did all kinds of crunching on them and slicing and dicing. And their intent was to see if they could predict when people stopped adhering to their New Year's resolution. And they came up with an answer. Before I tell you the answer, just think about what your answer would be. Not for you, but when do you think people would kind of quit their New Year's resolution? You don't have to say it out loud. Okay, you ready? So they found that January 19th was the day, I'm not making this up, January 19th was the day that majority of the people quit their New Year's resolution. So, driven by disgust and determination and discipline, the resolutions we make, the inner battle lasts for about 18 days. And that's it, 18 days. Isn't that an interesting, there's all kinds of significance for those of you that know the Mahabharata. But nonetheless, why are New Year's resolutions so hard to keep? Well, primarily because bad habits are very hard to get rid of. Paramahansa Yogananda, whose teachings, as you know, we follow here, he used to say that bad habits are an invisible prison that we carry with ourselves no matter where we go. And they're powerful because they have come to us through multiple lifetimes, that we exhibit those tendencies even in childhood, and they get reinforced in this life, which we are aware of. But they've been with us for multiple lifetimes. So they're a very powerful draw. And he said, I'm going to quote him, this is a wonderful way of saying it. He said that our bad habits are the ink marks traced on the graph of life by karma of the past. Isn't that interesting? So every New Year, Yogananda wrote to his disciples an uplifting and inspiring message of how to recreate ourselves, how to overcome these bad habits and infuse some new vitality into the new year. And over the past few days, I've been reading those things that he had written. And I think through that, I think I've extracted 4 things that were common to most of these messages. These are fairly straightforward tips, strategies, if you will, that will help us make and stick to our New Year's resolutions. Now, these 4, I'm going to tell them in a particular order. Pay attention to the order, it's important. And it works like this. The last one, if you're able to follow that tip, then you don't need any of the first 3. That's the ultimate one. Okay. If you're able to follow the last one and the one before that, then the other 2 are unnecessary. And if you're only minimally, you have to follow the first one. Okay, so that's kind of how these work. And I'll tell you the deeper significance of it soon. So, what is the first one? These habits are the things that make our minds inelastic. They make our minds rigid. They reduce our choices. And Yogananda said in many of his writings that the human mind is elastic But there is a trick. If you have to pull on it gradually. If you pull on it gradually, it will respond to your tugs. So what this means is that when we make a New Year's resolution, it has to be something achievable, something realistic. If you've never run in your life and you make a New Year's resolution that says, in this new year, I'll run 3 miles every day, well, 18 days later, you're done, probably with shin splints, right? So it doesn't work. You're far better off making an achievable resolution. Maybe I'll run half a mile 3 days a week, whatever that might be for you. That's one part of gradual. The second part of gradual is, our habits, our bad habits, are extremely precise. Just think about it. Think about your morning routine. Perhaps there are 2 or 3 bad habits in your morning routine. Maybe there isn't. I don't know. I'm just saying. It's so precise. It has to be just so. Otherwise, we feel disturbed, discombobulated, right? That's the nature of any habit, including bad habits, is they are extremely precise. They are a channel in the mind, like water channels on a mountain. So our resolutions, which are merely good habit replacements, should also be extremely precise, extremely precise. So it's not enough to say that I will meditate regularly in the new year. That's not precise enough. That's just like saying, I'll get up in the morning and enjoy the first half hour. That's not how bad habits work. So it's far better to say that I will meditate 20 minutes per day, 30 minutes per day. Or better still, I will meditate that much of time first thing in the morning, or during lunchtime, just before dinner. The more precise we get, the more the mind responds, because it's a pole star. If it's imprecise, there's all kinds of logical shenanigans that you can play with it that will eventually water it down so much that you might as well not have made the resolution. So this is, remember, these have a hierarchy among them. Minimally, this has to be done if you don't do anything else. Now, the second one is all about willpower. And this is, in a way, the central aspect of this entire New Year's resolution thing. Many years ago, I used to have a yoga teacher. She was a total bundle of energy, and she had so much willpower that it felt like she could make her body and mind do absolutely anything she wanted. And she had a key phrase that she used to use among us. And she always said, no matter what. That's how she said, no matter what. And what she meant by that was, if you make up your mind when you are in a place of high energy, stick to it no matter what. Because once she offered a certain advanced yoga training to some of us, and I really, really wanted to take it. I was privileged to be invited. The problem was it started at 5 a.m. in the morning. And I was, until that point, a late riser, shall we say. So I went to her and said, this is very good. I'm glad you invited me. I'm very privileged, but it's really early in the morning. So she said, get up early no matter what. I said, okay. And so the first 3 or 4 days, it was okay. It was filled with a lot of resolve and determination. I got up early. And on the 4th or 5th day, I don't remember anymore, I stayed up late, and it was midnight by the time I went to sleep. And the mind presented me with multiple, extremely legitimate sounding reasons for why I should not get up. And they were there, all of you would be familiar with this kind of Socratic method that the mind engages with you. And so I kept hearing, no matter what. And so I said, okay. So I was able to go the next day, and the next 4 or 5 days were really hard because it was just such a battle going on. But the thing was, these were all very legitimate. None of those internal dialogue seemed to come from a place of laziness or avoidance or anything. It felt like I was extremely sincere. But it took about, I don't know how long, 3 weeks, something, for that miasma to kind of leave and kind of look back and say, wow, all those things that I thought were legitimate reasons to not do it were really completely not legitimate at all. They were just games that my past habits were playing on me. So this is the second one, that no matter what, that willpower, there has to be almost a stupid consistency, a kind of a blind consistency, at least in the initial stages when the seed of the resolution has just been planted and it needs to be watered by this no matter what kind of determination. Remember, there's a hierarchy. So if you really come in with this kind of willpower, you could probably handle non-gradual changes, but you have to be a little bit aware of, what we are and what you individually are. Now, this is good. With these two, we have two powerful techniques. These are kind of the psychological side of things. These will help us perhaps get through an entire year without pushing the bad habits over there. But what's needed, because see, New Year's resolutions, the ones that we make every New Year, are merely a trial run for the ultimate resolution, which is to find God. That takes, that is the ultimate New Year's resolution, which at some point, at some level, all of us have made. That takes not merely fighting with bad habits, but getting beyond them, transcending them. So that needs a little bit more of a wider perspective, because now we are in the realm of karma. It's no longer disgust and discipline. Then we have to ask, why did we get into this pickle in the first place? Why are we this seemingly powerless piece of consciousness that has to struggle with these things? In the Bhagavad Gita, as many of you know, this is the Bible of Hinduism, of Sanatana Dharma, the source book of yoga, and it takes place as a conversation between God and his disciple, God, Krishna, in human form, and his disciple Arjuna. And at some point, Krishna is saying who we really are, okay? So he says, and I'm going to quote you, these two verses are among the most famous in the entire Gita, who we really are. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha, nachainam kledayantyaapo nanushoshayati marutaha, ayam nityah sarvagataha, stanu rachalyoyam sanatanaha. Ayam nityah sarvagataha stanu rachalyoyam sanatanaha. And roughly translated, what it means is our true nature, the soul, yours, mine, everybody's, is nainam chindanti shastrani. Weapons cannot destroy it. Fire cannot burn it. It's not drowned by water, and it's not withered by wind. It is everlasting, all-permeating, ever calm, unmoving, eternal. Yet we are in this pickle of unable to stick to our New Year's resolutions. How did we get from there to here? To understand that, we have to ask an even bigger question. How was the universe created? How did God create the universe? New Year's Day, might as well get the big question over with and make the rest of the year less burdensome. How did God create the universe? Well, as we saw in today's Bhagavad Gita reading, it says, "O Arjuna, all things like the beads of a necklace are strung together by the thread of my consciousness and are sustained by it." All things like the beads of all things, meaning the entire universe, like the beads of a necklace, are strung together by the thread of my consciousness, God's consciousness, which means there are many things that can be unpacked by this extremely profound sentence, but what's relevant to us is the word consciousness. So let me unpack that part a little bit and leave the rest of it alone. So it's saying that everything ultimately is consciousness. The floor I'm standing on, the chair you're sitting on, my body, my mind, your body, your mind, has at the heart of it, God's consciousness. Yogananda said that God literally thought everything in the universe into existence. These vibrations of divine consciousness became energy, and that energy vibrated even more and became matter, like the blades of a fan. As they turn faster and faster, they give the illusion of being solid and undivided. So everything is consciousness, and it is this divine vibration is called as the sound of Om in the yogic teachings, and it is the word of the Bible, as you again heard in today's reading. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God. All things were made by Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. So the Creator didn't create the universe, the Creator became the universe. New Year's resolutions. Now, we are similar in that whatever we become, whatever we identify with, begins as a thought. And with that thought, as Hriman says, it comes with it a packet of energy to create, to manifest that thought. And then once it's manifested, we identify with it, we become it. I have been a computer scientist for 25 years. I've studied computer science, I worked as a computer scientist, so I became a computer scientist. Before I became, I was probably other things too. At least in my mind, it was free enough to be a physicist or a musician or whatever. But now, I'm a computer scientist. I have identified with it. For 20 years, I used to rise late, so I became a late riser. So what we put our energy into, we become that. And therein lies the rub. This is why New Year's resolutions are hard to keep, is because we so identify with our past actions, past failures, our inability to do certain things and ability to do certain other things, our requirement, so to speak, in the mind for things to be in a certain way, and so on. So the more we identify with it, the more we are likely to fail. The battle lasts only for 18 days, and January 19th, we are back to where we started until next January 1st. So Swami Kriyananda, he was talking about quitting his own efforts in quitting smoking when he was very, very young, and he wrote the following. First he said, I've quit smoking so many times. What is that Mark Twain thing? I forget. Smoking's easy to quit. I've done it so many times. So he kind of leads in with that. And then he says, every time I went back to the habit, I did so not with the consciousness of failure, but with the thought, well, I haven't won yet, and maybe next time I will. In this way, I strengthened my will to succeed instead of allowing every failure to reinforce my self-hypnosis of weakness. So this is the third key of sticking to our New Year's resolutions, is to not identify with our past failures, to not be driven by them. In other words, we don't resolve. How can we resolve the same problem with the consciousness that created it? Our resolutions should instead be an affirmation that we are already that which we want to become. And therefore, as the affirmation said today, that I leave behind my failures and my accomplishments. What I do today will create for me a new and better future filled with joy. So this is the third part. And remember, there is a hierarchy. If you are able to do this perfectly, willpower comes naturally. You can do big things. But since we do this imperfectly, we need that little willpower component, and we need that measurable small goals component, and so on. Now, is this enough? These three. These are three powerful tools in our repertoire in terms of overcoming past bad habits. These are mostly enough, but not really, because this still is in the realm of self-effort. These are all things that I can do. So let me tell you a little bit about this woman named Dina Castor. Has anybody heard of her? Dina Castor. She is considered the foremost long-distance athlete, long-distance runner in the United States. Now, Dina Castor was, she had incredible amounts of talent right from a young age. And she easily got into an athletic scholarship in the University of Kentucky. And while in college, she honed her technique. She found a fabulous coach, and she became stronger. She became faster. She had more endurance, and pretty soon she began to win some good competitions. She was an elite athlete. And then within that particular space of athletes, the go-to competition is called the National Cross Country Championships. All elite athletes from all colleges gather there to determine who is the national champion. Then they go on to represent America in international events. So it's a big deal. So she joined that, and the gun fired, and she surged ahead. She was confident. Her legs were pumping. She was breathing easily. She felt the power within her. But after a few miles, these are long distance running, after a few miles, she felt that other people were coming behind her. And before she knew it, 15 other women just surged past her as if she was standing still. Now, she wasn't feeling weak, mind you. She writes in this book, she says that I felt very strong. I felt, I was breathing easily. I was running in harmony. It's great. But no matter how much she tried, these other athletes were so fast that she came, in the end of the race, number 20 in that race, which was very low performance for someone of her caliber. So she needed something else. Her coach's wife is a very wise woman named Caroline. She gave her a very interesting piece of advice. It has nothing to do with running. You know what she said? Caroline said that, Dina, find 10 things every day that you can be grateful for. Every single day. It's not optional. And she said, okay, fine, I'll try anything, because this is completely mysterious to me. So she began to write. She knocked off the easy ones right in the first few days. I'm grateful for my parents. I'm grateful for my health, for my coach, and this and that. All she knocked them off. Pretty soon, she was under great pressure to find things that she was grateful for, because finding 10 things, you can try it. I tried it. It's really hard. So pretty soon, her entire day was filled with a constant lookout for things that she was grateful for. She was kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here, or the top of the barrel, as you will see. Like, oh, I'm grateful for the smell of grass. And she was running, she smelled fertilizer in the fields, and she said, I'm grateful for the farmer that grows the food which sustains me. I'm grateful for driving my Jeep with its top down, and so on. She said pretty soon she was beginning to live in a bubble of gratitude. Okay? And then one day she was running along a river. It was a long, hard training session, and she began to feel fatigued. And she was running along the river. Across the river, she saw the fiery red setting sun and snow-capped mountains beyond that. And she felt the sound, heard the sound of the river flowing next to it. And she said, in that moment, something incredible happened to her. That she found a strength within her that she knew had nothing to do with her muscles, nothing to do with her training, but yet it was within her, unmistakably, that she suddenly all the fatigue left her, and she was able to run. And at the end of that training, she shaved off an incredible 83 seconds of her training time. And she knew with complete certainty that now she had found the source of endurance that will help her compete at the most elite level. And in 2006, what she did was set the American women's marathon record, which actually has held for 16 years. It was only broken this year, and by not that much. So what does this attitude of gratitude have to do with the power that she felt? So the Sanskrit word for gratitude is called kritagnya. Krita means done. kri, the same word as kriya meaning doing. Krita means done. Gya is the same as jnana, means a certain complete knowledge, the certainty, the complete knowledge, certainty. That kritagya, gratitude, means is the certainty that it was done, meaning a certainty that I didn't do it. Okay? So the attitude of gratitude opened up Dina's mind to the fact that the real power to accomplish anything comes from, as Yogananda put it, a renewed reverence for the unlimited and hidden power of God that lies within us. So this is the fourth one. Remember, I said the hierarchy. If you have this one, you don't need any of the others. If we are constantly in touch with the unlimited and hidden power of God that comes to us, then the New Year's resolutions are guaranteed to succeed, because after all, we've all heard this, we know this. Why would God give us anything more than what we can handle? So there you have it, the 4 techniques from Paramhansa Yogananda for how to make and stick to our New Year's resolutions, make achievable resolutions that are very precise, employ your willpower no matter what, release any identification with past failures, and finally tune into the unlimited and hidden power of God that lies within us. Happy New Year.
Please give us our hearts, Lord.